with that said, Nick Hill is going to moderate. I'll once again, if you have questions, please line up here. I'll hold the mic and we'll do questions.
Thank you, Chris, and thanks to both of the Spoke brothers for putting on this amazing event. I was telling Chris, we were here last year, and it is quite literally doubled in size. So, hey, Dennis, good to see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of new faces. You know, they say never be the smartest person in the room, and I can tell you I am in the right room because there are so many smart, amazing people here. I'm going to keep it quick because I am a podcaster, so I let other people do things and then I talk about them on the podcast. So if you like to listen to podcasts, check out the Canadian Real Estate Investor.
It's the #1 podcast in the country, I think, isn't it?
#1 real estate podcast.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you, Max. You know, I was recently in Europe for a few weeks, and every building in all the major cities there is missing middle. It's all 6 stories as far as the eye can see. They're actually missing small and missing large, and then you walk around Toronto and you're lucky to see a few of these. So to see the people in this room pushing for the change and legislation going that way, and now stratifying and CMHC through MLI Select and other programs all kind of moving the needle, it's really great to see. So I'm going to stop my piece there and basically just be a warm body up here and allow Chris to pass the microphone around, because I'm sure everyone has some very direct questions for these gentlemen here. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Question for Chris, actually. You mentioned you can convert an existing multiplex to a condo. How does that impact, or what are the requirements for Tarion? Let's say it was built by a builder without Tarion registration. How does that impact it, if at all?
So that's a great question. I actually don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you. Ben, do you know how Tarion would?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Tarion regulates new homes. So if you are taking an office space, you're tearing out the inside, you're converting that, that does have to go through a Tarion process. And that is also, they're sort of interesting. You got to pre-fund your reserve fund, which totally sucks. So it's got to be a really viable project. If you're taking an existing lived-in condo, lived-in rental unit and converting that into a condominium, as long as it's been lived in for a certain amount of time, and it's not that it's a fixed amount of time, it's that Tarion doesn't want you scamming the system. So it's a bit discretionary on that side, but it's like a totally lived in. You take a building that's been up for 30 years, convert to condo, no Tarion. You do have to consider renters' protections that exist in both the Condominium Act and in the Residential Tenancies Act, but no Tarion.
Great, thanks.
Thank you so much for your contribution today. This is the reason I came. So I'm a homeowner, and I'm condominiumizing my single-family home. So the most difficult part about getting funding is understanding the price per square foot that I'm going to exit at, and so I don't know what the comps are in the industry or on the streets. Like, is this condo? Is this a townhouse, or is this a very small single-family home? So just for context, each unit is going to be around 1,200 square feet. So that's why I'm kind of stuck in between.
Any appraisers in the house?
Yeah. So I think this is where, and I brought up a realtor as part of the condo team. Your I guess strongest advocate there and your strongest advisor there is going to be a realtor who is on the ground and is at least familiar with this product. So you can look at 319 Mortimer, the realtor who just sold that property. Will have some insights specifically on that property in that neighborhood. But there are realtors who are sort of in this space selling this product and will be able to look at what you're designing and hopefully be able to tell you how the market's going to see it. Are they going to value it as a condo unit in a tower or as a townhouse or somewhere in the middle? But yeah, that's sort of the actual valuation. No, I'm not a numbers guy. That's why I went to law school.
The numbers do appear to be quite volatile right now. That's part of the problem. But thank you so much.
Yeah. Hey, good afternoon. I think this question is for Ben and Chris. Wondering your experiences with the City of Toronto getting through the condo approval, because as you said, there's no streamlined process right now for multiplexes. So if you go and talk to a planner or you look on site, it's designed for the large tower condos, right? All the studies and such. So I'm wondering if there's a particular way that you've been able to navigate to be more effective, because it does appear at some level pretty discretionary as to what's required and what is not.
Yeah, I can handle that. So essentially the condo process, again, it's even if you have 2 units or you have 200 units, it's relatively the very similar process. It establishes the exact same milestones with the city. So the city follows the exact same process as what they would for a larger condominium itself. It's just the requirements are significantly reduced because you don't have additional conditions of approval that you would get through zoning bylaw amendment or site plan amendment. So essentially the process is a lot more streamlined for the multiplexes than it would be for a larger development, but it's the exact same process as what you would be going through no matter how many units you actually have itself.
But is the city contemplating actually formalizing the streamlined process for multiplexes? Are you aware of it?
So it's the draft plan of condominium process, so it's the exact same. So there's no exact streamlined process just for multiplexes yet. It follows the exact same process as what you would do for a regular large tower condominium itself.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to build on the first question, and I'm going to call it the multiplex rental contingency plan. So we heard in your earlier presentation you need 2 regulators to register as a condo. It sounds like, and I'm just clarifying, if you convert it to a condo after the building's live with rental, do you get rid of one or both of the regulators? So Tyrion went away. Is the other one staying around for condo regulation?
No. So both regulators regulate new home builds. So if you are not a new home builder, so a new home is a, and the definition is in the Act. I'm not going to try to remember it because I'm going to mangle it. But essentially, a new home is something that a person, an end buyer, is occupying for the first time, and the buyer is the important part there. New apartment unit that is not going to be owned by the occupant is not a new home, unless it's a condo unit that's being bought by an investor and then occupied by a purchaser. But essentially, a multifamily property is not a new home. It's not regulated by Terran or HCRA. And I guess the point on that is you can, as part of a long-term plan, potentially build a rental building, have it occupied by tenants for a time, and then convert over to condo. The problem with doing that purposefully is potentially getting on HCRA and Terran's radar that you are trying to skirt the system. So I don't have like a rule of thumb of an amount of time to spend before doing a conversion. It's something to sort of talk out the system with your planning professionals and your lawyer and sort of everybody involved in your process.
Right, but the flip side, because again, we're all mitigating regulators, if you actually convert it to a condo, LTB is nasty, but condo rules actually overrule LTB. So if you're a multiplex renter and you convert it to a condo and you actually are the only owners of the condo board, you can then update the rules in the condo board to whatever else you want to do in addition to whatever your renter rules are, and thus mitigate some of the LTB rules. Would that be correct?
No, the Residential Tenancies Act is going to sort of rule over. I think the one exception there is pets. Where condos are allowed to ban pets, apartments aren't, unless it's a rented condo, you can ban pets. But essentially, most of the issues that you're going to be dealing with the Residential Tenancies Act, all of that's still going to apply if it's a condo. The advantage of any new build, whether it's condo or apartment, is getting around rent control. Anything after 2018 is no longer rent controlled. But yeah, the sort of condo rules layer on top of the Residential Tenancies Act. They don't really overrule it.
Plus Airbnb and other ones. But I hear you. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. So the topics here were about condominiumization. I was wondering if, given the new federal and provincial rules promoting purpose-built rental in the last few months, have you seen the trend going towards condominiumization or against it towards purpose-built rental?
I would just say that if you condominiumize, you're project at the outset, you don't get the benefit of the HST rebate. That's at the outset. I don't know what else.
So I think there are a lot of factors at play. So there's the HST rebate, which is huge. It's probably roughly 8% of your building's value, because discount out your HST input tax credits you already get. That's a big number. So there's, access to MLI Select, which that sort of amortization period totally goes away if you're selling condo. You can't amortize for 50 years. I think max is going to be 30 for new builds, which I think is a totally irresponsible decision by the government, and happy to go on record about that. But call it 25-year amortization at regular residential rates. There are a lot of things. So I think in deciding whether you want to build X project, it's going to have 10 units, it's going to be this kind of building, fine. I'm deciding between condo or rental. You got to run both pro formas, take all factors into account, and sort of figure out which one at the end of the day nets the developer a better return, a more reliable return. Take into account, I think, some of the softer factors, like being able to exit versus having to deal with tenants in the landlord-tenant board. But I think the biggest thing is to game out all of the incentive programs, all of the benefits, all of the costs, and make a responsible decision there. Because the incentive programs, they disincentivize condo for sure. And you may want to take advantage of that. I say that, again, it's against self-interest for me to say that. I want everybody to do condo so that I get your business. But don't make choices on your development that benefit Ben Singer. Make choices that benefit you, because as a developer, you make more money, you can turn that into more buildings, and you can better address the housing crisis. I'm just going to make a quick general point. My stroller is in the back there. It's I dropped off my daughter at daycare before coming here, and if in 16 years, when she's going off to university and she wants to have a place of her own, it's a single apartment is costing $2 million. This is not a city she's going to want to live in, and I really want her to stay here because I love her so much, and I just want her to be around me all the time. So I need this development community to really increase supply so we can bring down prices so Adina doesn't go anywhere. So yeah, that's really to benefit Ben Singer, build what makes the most sense.
Do it for Ben's daughter, guys.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name's Leanna. I'm a community planner with CB Planning, and I'm actually focused on community land trusts. I wanted to know if you see any opportunities to make this kind of crossover with community land trusts, also being able to get city lands possibly transferred to these land trusts and having the opportunity to work with private developers to build this housing. Just any opportunities or creative outside of the box ideas that anyone has, or if you've worked with a land trust before.
Can you define community land trust?
Yes. So it is a nonprofit organization that is created by the community. Residents come together to make it happen, and then they use this entity to acquire properties and run them as either commercial spaces, affordable housing, but it's all run kind of very similar to a condo, can be scattered across more than just one area, but this nonprofit is going to be running all of the property management and the acquisitions. Never heard of it before.
How would it work? So if I had land, I would donate it to the trust?
Yeah, if that's one of the options.
Okay.
So if the trust has this land, the trust is responsible. So the board, we also have a board, we would have boards, and that board would discuss anything that the land was supposed to be used for. So if they choose to develop land, develop units on it, they're able to, but also having the opportunity for affordable housing, I'm going to say discounts, rebates with developers.
Yeah. On the rental side, you would qualify for direct CMHC, which is government lending, through ACLP or their co-investment program. which provides actual grants towards the project, and like really, really low interest rates during the construction period that private developers wouldn't normally achieve. So if a nonprofit is the owner or the major owner, there's a whole new world of financing opportunities. So developers are interested in it. Yeah, it definitely makes sense for the city to do that.
Yeah, reason why I brought it up is because Toronto Island, like where Center Island is one of the places that uses that model, the trust model. So it just keeps everything down, and I'm trying to see how to bridge it with the community here over the water.
So our firm is actually working with Windmill Developments with not a community land trust, but as one of the first housing co-ops as well within the city of Toronto in recent time.
You said Windmill?
Yeah, Windmill, yeah. That's 244 Eglinton. You guys take a look at it as well. So I think one of the biggest things here is partnering up with a developer in order to provide those incentives as well and bring something to the table along with what's being spoken here in order to do that. And I can kind of give you a bit more information about that after the fact as well. So.
Thank you.
Hey guys, great presentations. Ben, you and I have spoken about this before, but just the two of you, if there's any sort of conservative number you can give in terms of cost from the time of land acquisition until condo registration, one for the legal condo fees, also the city taxes or the city registration fees, and then also just that first year potential coverage of the condo board. So I realize it's a very broad question, but if there's any general rule of thumb or rough estimate would be great.
So I can give the city fees because I know them off the top of my head from dealing with them. So for a standard condominium, registering a standard condominium, you have a base fee application of about $11,000 plus about $23 per unit. So essentially for a multiplex, you're looking at only about $12,000 for that fee itself. If you're doing a condominium conversion, it's $24,000, and that's if you have an existing building that is being converted from a rental into a condominium itself.
Okay.
Yeah. So the difficulty, I think, in getting a ballpark number is that the professionals involved are going to vary, just in their sort of capacities, but also it's going to vary based on what the actual condo is going to look like. It is very different for a surveyor to do a sort of replicated floor plate than it is, I think it was Blair's presentation earlier, broke out sort of the different units contained in a multiplex where you have doors at ground level, so you don't have shared common element space.
Yeah.
Those spaces are very hard to survey. So you end up with a much more complex survey. So, a 2-4 unit condos can have very, very different survey fees.
Yeah.
The complexity of legal documents can vary, as well as sort of, and just speaking frankly, like lawyers, we run our fees essentially on an estimate of time, and there's a lot of controversy in the profession, whether that's a good idea, but we do. So a more experienced developer who knows what they're doing, knows how to gather the documents, present everything in a coherent fashion, versus someone who's doing a condo for the first time, the same project takes twice as much time, so the fee ends up being roughly twice as much. So I think the way to approach it is, as you're putting together your pro forma, is to contact your prospective professionals pretty early on. Like I'm happy to take a project, give me basic drawings, basic narrative description of what's going on, and give you a quote for sort of all the services involved. Look at title to see if you've got to do that land titles upgrade, that kind of thing, and inform that pro forma. And then from those quotes determine sort of, okay, these are the bulk fees I'm expecting, and go from there. But yeah, it's very, I can't give you I lost battery.
And you're
sorry.
done. I appreciate
red
that.
light
So
went
that's
The microphone's angry at my equivocation.
no, that's fine. Just in my consultation in doing those things, I've sort of had it as between each line items about 25,000 each. So I'm glad I haven't checked the cities recently, but I just sort of mentally had 75K in there, not including the surveyor. So, just some reference. Thanks.
Hi, a quick question. How do the interest rates between MLI Select financing or related financing and other sources of financing compare?
So you're talking about for construction or term financing?
Well, both really, but I'm
Okay.
definitely interested in the term, yeah.
Okay, so construction closed a loan today that was prime plus 25 basis points for $3 million, which is super low, and I don't think we'll ever get that again. But maybe budget like prime plus 1 for insured construction, and then term is in the mid 4% range right now. So
Is that for
insured.
Yeah, the MLI select.
Conventional.
Yeah.
Conventional, I mean, Matt can speak to conventional. I don't know where Matt is from Foremost, but conventional construction rates, what would you say? It's like 10 plus? So prime is 7.2, so like insured is like low 8s, right? Maybe high 7s, and then conventional would be closer to 10 and a half, 11.
So it's
plus,
a lot,
plus
it's a
big
lot less.
fees.
Yeah.
Insured would be cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah.
You wouldn't go through the brain damage of getting it insured.
Yeah.
It wasn't cheaper, and you got more money out of it.
Right. Right.
And better amortization, way more proceeds. Yeah.
Thanks.
Conventional is 75%. Insured is like 95. Loan to cost. Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I got no more questions? Over to you, Chris.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Thank you to our panel, to Max, to Ben, to Chris. Well, thanks, Nick.